yes, you have an opportunity to glance, yes, through this window to a worldwide, just to see a world, to understand a worldwide phenomenon. In this case, it's actually Muhammad Adura case, or maybe the right way to define it is the French 2 case. Yes, I mean the study. Okay, the case will be Muhammad Adura, but the study will be the treatment of the European media to Israel. Yes, so it's a different lecture from the identity or the policies lectures that we have here. That's one point. The other point is about you, my friend Philip, because as you know, I don't know what age everybody here was, but anyway, there are a few people in French, you know, besides Philip, and many of them saw Muhammad Adura case, but not many of them did what you did. And I think it's also opportunity for us, and we are trying from time to time to bring people that can be a source of inspiration. Yes, and in my eyes, Philip can be for us a source of inspiration to someone that saw what we are going to see in a few minutes and didn't sleep well that night and woke up in the morning and did something, and you're going to see this something. And I thought about it. Many of our leaders, our historical leaders of our nations like Moses and David and Abraham, all of them started their career in that they didn't ignore, that they saw evil or different phenomena, and they didn't just keep on going. Yes, and they did something. So we have two opportunities here. First, a case study, which means we have here a case. I told someone here before that in the Harvard School, the Kennedy Business School, their master is, I don't remember how many, I think 200 case studies. Okay, this is the master. The master is going over hundreds of case studies. Yes, this is the method of learning. Okay, so it's a different method. You have here usually two lectures of identity, two lectures of policy, and one lecture of case study. Someone from the field itself that brings us the picture. This is our first opportunity, and our second opportunity is to know better Philip. It's not the first time you're here, and it's a great honor for us that people like you that made something in their life for all of us, to have a better world, are here. So it's your floor.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very, very much for your invitation again. I want to tell you something very, very interesting. Is that 6 months ago I was in Washington, and a lady came to me and said, "Wow, I'm so happy to see you again." I said, "Okay, I'm happy to see you." I couldn't recognize her, and she said, "Well, now I work in Washington with the think tanks and at the Capitol Hill and everything, but 3 years ago, you were at the JSC, and you gave a presentation about Muhammad Adura, and she told me, now that I live in the States, I really understood how important it is to fight against the media bias and the lies. So I wanted to thank you very much for this experience that I had in Washington. So for I guess some of you have already seen this presentation, but so I change it every time. I've been doing this kind of presentation. I've been fighting this battle for almost 13 years, but I've been changing it like at least once a year to make it new and to make it different, because the perception I had 5 years or 7 years ago is different from the one you're going to see now. And now the fight is really winning the media battle. So let me tell you where I'm going to take you now. So we are facing different kinds of wars. First, you have in Israel, I would say, the conventional wars, the real wars. And the Arabs tried to destroy the state of Israel through these wars, but they were not able to succeed. Then they tried with terrorism, and at some point they succeeded, but at the end you won. Even sometime you had some incidents. And then there is a media war. And the bad news is that you did not even lose a media war. You were never engaged in the media war. The state of Israel has not been in this battlefield. This battlefield is done without the state of Israel, without the Jewish community, without the Jewish leaders in Europe. They are doing nothing, absolutely nothing. And I really want you to understand, because this is very, very important for you to understand that this is the real battlefield now. Even sometimes you have casualties here, but the real damage done to Israel now is not through these two kind of wars, but through the media war. And this is why it's becoming so difficult for Israelis, I would say, to when they're traveling abroad, to say that they're Israelis, for Jews to live in some parts of Europe and some parts in other places in the world. It's because the media war is lost. So in the Western world, of course, we don't have the conventional wars on our soil. We are going, for example, from time to time at war in Africa, in Iraq, or in other countries, but we don't have war. But we have terrorism, and we don't know how to deal with it. And we have the media war. And in the media war, I would say the radical Islamists are really winning it big time. So I decided to pick on the media war because I'm not a counter-terrorist expert, and I'm not a soldier. And I took the Al Jazeera blood libel, which is the biggest of all media frauds. You mentioned it, but prior to this intervention, I had a conversation with a few people here. Do all of you know exactly what we're talking when we're dealing with Mohammed Adoura? Do all of you know? For sure? Not sure. Yeah? Sure? Okay. Okay, so this is a picture. All of you know this picture? Okay. All of you know the bottom line of this picture? Okay, so you know the Israeli soldiers have been accused of having killed the boy and shot the father. But the real story is that it's a hoax. It never happened. What I will show you later on is, for example, the fact that the boy, instead of being dead, he raised his elbow and looks at the cameraman. Okay? All these kinds of things which makes it impossible. Okay, so what is it? It was almost 15 years ago. It's September 30, 2000. It was the beginning of the Second Intifada, and it was the year before 9/11. That's really important. I mean, for most of you here who were very, very young when it happened, you have to understand that in 2000 there was no YouTube, there was no fast internet, so you were not used to go and watch again the news on the internet. You know, you were swallowing the news from the TV at 8 o'clock news, and then the day after it was some other news. So we are not used to look and to analyze what was put on TV. And you also have to remember that prior to the Second Intifada, I would say that the Muslim world was pretty quiet. There was no such a big turmoil all over the world. Now, if you look in Asia, Africa, Middle East, of course, Europe, America, every big trouble is related to radical Islam. At that time, it was not a problem. So who made this news report? It's a guy whose name is Talal Abu Rahma. At that time, this cameraman was working for two TV stations. He was working for France 2, which is a French state-owned TV station. It belongs to the French government. And there was also CNN. Talal Abu Rahma sent his material to CNN the same day, and CNN rejected the tapes and said it doesn't look real. But he sent them also to Charles Underlin. Charles Underlin, for those of you who don't know the name, he's a French-Israeli journalist who made Aliyah 48 years ago. He came to live in Israel. I would say he's the biggest French journalist when it comes to Middle East. And he's a Jew, of course. And he gave his kosher stamp to this news report. He got the material from Talal Abu Rahma. He edited the film, put his voiceover according to what Talal Abu Rahma told him, and then broadcast it. He broadcast a 50-second clip. He offered it to all the TVs in the world for free, and it was spread all over the world. But the main problem is that it's a fraud. It's the worst. It's the blood libel of our generation. And in this case, I will show you that we're bringing facts against faith. We have facts here. For example, you'll see again the picture. Despite the boy and the father are supposedly received 15 bullets altogether, but they don't have a single drop of blood on their bodies or t-shirt. But their face is that the boy and the father were shot completely at the end of this film. So you'll see everything is stupid on their position, and we're just bringing facts. I went through a legal battle which is not completely over, and I've been also through 13 years of lobbying and political battles, and I think it's really important. You know, just before coming here, you know, I was I came from the airport, but just before the airport, I stopped at the Voice of Israel. You know, the Voice of Israel with Danny Seaman, and Danny Seaman, who was the former GPO, was my strongest ally on the Al-Dura fight for all these years. And we were remembering, you know, all these lobbying activities. I mean, how we tried to educate the Israeli establishment, how we tried to raise their awareness. I mean, I can remember, I can tell you, it was like maybe 7 or 8 years ago, I was in front of Bougie Yalon. At that time, he was the chief of staff of the IDF when it happened. And I remember that I had a meeting with him showing on my computer a presentation, you know, of the Al-Dura hoax. And the guy didn't know it was a hoax. You have to understand, the chief of staff of the IDF didn't know that that it never happened. So it's really something, you know, you need to educate them and raise their awareness. So I will show you now how I will proceed for this presentation. I will show you first the impact of the Al-Dura fraud. Why? Because some people may tell you, you know what, it was 15 years ago, who cares, you know? And when it was 8 years, you know, 7 years ago, they were telling me, oh, it's 8 years ago, we don't care. Yes, we care. This is very, very important, and you'll see why later. Then, why it's a fraud? I'll answer all your questions, but I'll try to show you, really, in a short way, why it's a fraud. Then I will tell you about the official Israeli report, which came out only 2 years ago. It was intensive lobbying activities. Danny Seaman was helping me, and I also had Yossi Cooper-Wasser was really, really very active with me. Then the strategy of winning the media battle, and your questions, my answers, and I'm ready to listen to your suggestions. I'm sure you have ideas, because as the battle is not over yet, we need more and more ideas. So let me tell you the impact it had. First, if you remember, 2 weeks after it happened, you had the lynching of 2 soldiers in Ramallah. 2 soldiers were lost in Ramallah, and they were captured by the Palestinian, by the Arab policemen. They captured them, and when they saw the crowd saw that the guys were wearing IDF uniforms, then they tore them apart. They lynched them completely, and they were screaming, "Adura, Adura, Adura." Then you have all these postage stamps from the Muslim world. See, all the Muslim worlds. Even the peaceful country like Egypt and Jordan at that time, you know, you have Iran, Sudan, Syria, Morocco, Tunisia. All of them had their postage stamps. And what's interesting is that, you know, it happened in Gaza. When it didn't happen in Gaza, but it was supposed to happen in Gaza. But you also see that there is, you know, the mosque, you know, see the Al-Aqsa mosque. So it has a big objective here. Then you had Bin Laden, who made a recruitment tape. Remember, it was the year before 9/11. Okay, well, you don't need to be brainwashed by Bin Laden. So this is it. But it was used a lot. Then you had this kind of peaceful guy, you know, Marwan Barghouti, you know, giving interview, and you see on the back here, you can see "Stop killing Palestinian children," you know, always using the same kind of thing. And you will see again this picture. You have a building like this in Tehran, you see. This is a huge building, again with a mosque. And Daniel Pearl. Daniel Pearl was killed and beheaded in Pakistan. And you will not see the ugly scene, but you will see the justification for the killing, which is Mohammed Adura. You see here? You see? Stop killing Palestinian children. They're always using this poster. Okay. Why you can hear something in German is because my attention about the case, you know, At that time, before entering this, I used to be a stockbroker and a businessman, so I had nothing to do with the media battle. But the first thing is that on April 2002, a German public TV, ARD, made a documentary on the case Al-Dura. And it was a 50 minutes documentary where they explained that the Israelis were not responsible for the shooting. So I was under shock because, we had so much suffering in France because of this. So with a group of friends, we bought the rights of this movie, and we tried to offer it to the other French TVs to have it broadcast. None of them wanted to broadcast because it would clean the good name of the state of Israel. And then later on, we came out with the conclusion that it was a hoax. And so the German TV made a second documentary where they followed me at my trials and everything. And when they agree with me, it's a hoax. And if you're interested at the end, you'll have my email. I will be able to send you the link of the second German documentary, which shows you how it's a hoax. You have also in Gaza the Ministry of Health, Martyr Mohammed Ad-Dura. And you see the Hezbollah flag. You see the size of this young kid. So you can see the size. You see again with the mosque, the boy and the father. And here they've included a picture of a soldier. Has nothing to do here, but just to make people believe that he was targeting them. And you know where is Bamako? It's the capital of Mali, in Africa. And Bamako is where France is having a big war against radical Islam. But the largest square, I would say the Times Square of Bamako, is this picture. You see? Big monument. So you have to understand that all these Malians, when they're coming to Paris, for example, to work or whatever, these people have in mind that the Jews are doing this to the Muslims. That's very important. And that's the effect of brainwashing. And you know what happened in Toulouse 3 years ago? The rabbi and the 3 kids were killed by Mohammed Merah, in front of a day school. It was a Jewish day school. And Mohammed Merah, before being killed by the police, spoke with the policeman and told them that he did it because of the Muslim children killed in Gaza. So he was killed by the police. And his friends went afterwards on TV and said it was because of Mohammed Ad-Dura. You see? So it's always, 12 years later, it's again and again and again. And even when you listen to the guys who killed, as a hyper cashier in Paris, and Charlie Hebdo, they said because of the Muslim kids in Gaza. When you're talking about Muslim kids killed in Gaza, you always think about Mohammed Ad-Dura. Okay, so now why it's a fraud? First, it's a scientifically proven fraud. We have ballistic experts, forensic scientists, we have graphologists, even biometricians, the people who compare the face, and I'll show you why it's important. We have all these experts' opinion. Our sources have never been contested, never. And most of our sources is coming from France 2's images, so we're taking their own weapons to show that they're lying. And there were some pioneers. The pioneers of this story were Nahum Shaf. It's very important to understand, and maybe one day, I don't know, maybe in 30 years, you'll have a very high position in the Israeli establishment, and you will meet another Nahum Shaf, and you will not believe him. And this will be the worst mistake of your career. Because Nahum Shaf, 3 weeks after it happened, 3 weeks, came to the IDF and said, it's a hoax, it never happened, it's a fabrication. Nobody wanted to listen to him. Ehud Barak, all these people said, we're not interested. They completely discredited the guy. But the guy really discovered, he's the one who discovered everything. He has lots of, I would say, personal issues. The guy doesn't look reliable because the guy doesn't have an articulate explanation, but the guy really discovered everything. Then you have Esther Shapira, who's the woman who made the German documentary. Despite her name is Shapira, she's not Jewish. She insists on telling it. And Esther. And there is Richard Landis. Richard Landis is an American scholar who coined the word Pallywood. You know what is Pallywood? You know? Palestinian Hollywood. So he's the one who really coined it. So he's been very helpful from at the beginning. Then we have some disagreements on this. But he really was really important when he really created this word. Then we have limited time, so the best thing would be for you to keep your questions until the end. But if there is something which is not clear, feel free to stop me, okay? And just that you know, so we have like an hour now from now with my presentation and your Q&A. You have my email, you even have my phone. I'm here in Israel for 5 more days. If you have more questions, you can feel free to ask me. Okay, so now I would like you to take a look at the film taken during the Syrian war. I guess here most of the people already used the gun here in this room. I've been in the IDF or any other army. It's important. I mean, some of them could have come from England or from whatever. But the thing is important is because when I'm making this kind of presentation for people who live like me in France, you know, I shoot, but most of the French people don't shoot with gun because, you know, they're not. You see? So it's important for you to understand when someone receives a bullet, what happens to him. Okay, let's take a look at this one. Of course, Allah will. Look at the blood. Look at the blood here. Okay. 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 Despite Allahu Akbar, he's dead, and he has blood everywhere. Okay. So it's very important because I won't tell you. I had a very, very funny conversation. It was like 8 years ago. You know what is Le Monde? Le Monde is like the French New York Times. And I had a conversation with the guy who was representing Le Monde at the Inbal Hotel 8 years ago. And the guy, I showed him the picture and said, look, the Al Jazeera story, at the end of the day, the guy has, both of them have 15 bullets in their bodies, but there is not a single drop of blood. And the guy looks at me and says, so what's the problem? Sorry, 15 bullets, high velocity, no blood. So I insisted on putting this kind of ugly film that people can remember that when you're getting bullets, you get blood somewhere. Okay. So now let's take a look at the France 2 News report. Why?
It's so obvious to us.
Okay, it's obvious for you. Okay, wait, but for French journalists, it's not obvious, and you really need to understand this. And the way it works. And I can tell you something, because it would have been impossible for them just to look at this, because receiving 15 high velocity bullets would have torn apart all their bodies. It wouldn't have been impossible to put it on TV. So now let's take a look at this 50-second clip. According to me, everything is fabricated. It's a hoax. But look at it. Every single part of this film is a fake. Look at that.
Mais une nouvelle rafale. Mohamed est mort et son père gravement blessé.
Okay. You have to understand that it may appear ridiculous now, but remember when Nahum Shahaf came to the Israeli government 15 years ago, nobody wanted to listen to him. Everybody swallowed the story of the 15 bullets and the boy dead and the father injured. Remember this. Okay. So let me show you the version of the fact. First they said that the soldiers were at a distance of 80 meters. 80 meters is quite a short distance. Especially when you look at this fixed target. The father and the boy would be a fixed target of, I would say, 2 square meters. We asked ballistic experts, soldiers, and we asked, where would you put the bullets if I'm asking you to shoot at 80 meters? And most of the shooters told us that all the bullets would be in this kind of target. Okay? All the bullets would be in this kind of target at 80 meters. especially if you're a sharpshooter. But according to France too, it took 45 minutes for the soldiers to succeed in shooting the boy and the father. It's more time than it takes for my presentation, you understand? I mean, we're talking about 22 Israeli soldiers in the base trying to shoot at them. Okay, 45 minutes. Then they said that the boy got killed with 3 high-velocity bullets, and the father got only 12 high-velocity bullets, but he was just injured. Okay? Let's take a look at the last picture. Okay, just with this picture, you understand it's ridiculous. Where is the blood for the 15 high-velocity bullets? Look at this, the boy here. The boy is like this, you know. When you're dead, you cannot hold your hands like that, you know. You see. And here you can see something red. Okay? So you may tell me, okay, this is the blood here. No, I will show you. It's a kind of a red handkerchief that he will take and put to his stomach to make people believe he's bleeding here. Okay? Okay, just common sense. Okay, let me show you where it happened or where it didn't happen. Here's the stronghold. The distance. A very important angle of 30 degrees. It's very important to calculate this angle of 30 degrees. And here you have the wall, the barrel, and the father and the boy. Okay? Let me show you now other scenes which were filmed the same day at the same spot. Because people will tell you, look, how dare you think that they would make a staging in the middle of a real war? Because if there was a real war, you cannot make a staging in the middle of a real war. What I will show you now is that everything was a fabrication. It was Hollywood land every day, all of the day, you see. So I will show you pictures taken just in front of the Israeli stronghold, not here. Here, you will see, with cameraman position here and filming in this direction. Same day, same spot. You see the Israeli stronghold here? The flag here. So now we're turning our back to Muhammad and the father. Look at that. You see the flag? So the guy pretends that he's wounded. He fails. They're calling an ambulance. The ambulance is coming rapidly. The cameramen are coming rapidly. And look at that. And look at this boy. Look at this boy. This one. You see, he's so happy that his friend is wounded that he smiles and he applauds. And you see, this one could be a real target for the Israelis. But they're not interested. But all these cameramen here, interesting, we are filming. These 4 cameramen are filming. All of them are turning their back to the Israelis. The Israelis should shoot at them, but not. You know? So interesting. Now I will show you another scene. You will see someone doesn't need to be carried to jump inside the ambulance. So look at that. The ambulance is coming. Someone rides his bicycle quietly. The open, and the guy jumps inside. Just that you realize, on the back here, you have the Israeli compound. So, I mean, if the Israelis were really decided to kill, I mean, they have targets like 10, 20 meters from them. Now, this is one of my favorite because the guy is not really wounded, but a little bit, but not because of the Israelis. Look at that. Yeah, not so badly. Okay, look, we have like a dozen of this the same day. We have ridiculous scenes the same day, but I just wanted to show you in a nutshell what can be seen on the same day.
Where did you get these videos?
AP, Reuters, all this kind of. Okay. We're using only, I would say, official. Friends to AP, Reuters. Okay. So now let's take a look at the first scene of.
All the official people are all Palestinians?
Sorry?
All the official cameramen
Yeah.
are all Palestinian?
Most of them are. At that time, some of them were not, but we've not found any of them. But I know that some of them. Now it's impossible. I mean, I would say for a decade now, it's completely impossible for a non-so-called Palestinian to film there. It's interesting that one day, the French public TV France 3, which is a sister company of France 2, tried to send an Arab, a French guy from Arab origin in Gaza, and the guy was captured by the Hamas because they don't want anyone else than people working for them. They want to be able to threat their own people. So now let me show you the first scene of the France 2 News report. Remember, I told you it's a fake as well. So now I'm asking you something. When you watch TV, do you often see someone receiving a bullet live? No, of course not. It never happens. Because the cameraman is never at the right time, at the right spot. You know, it never happens. But here, what you will see is that the cameraman knows exactly that this guy is going to be the hero. And this hero, look at what's going to happen. There are three interesting things. So the first thing is that the guy at the right time, at the right spot. The second thing, listen in French what he says. Les Palestiniens ont tiré à balles réelles. The Palestinians shot live ammunition. First time I heard that sometimes they are not shooting live ammunition. You know, from this, you can deduce that sometimes they're shooting blank. And this is why you understand that when they're doing Hollywood, you know, you're hearing lots of ta-ta-ta-ta-ta machine gun noise. They're shooting blank. And the third incredible thing is that if anyone here has his phone which rings, it takes more time for him to pick up the phone or to close it than for the ambulance to arrive. I'm telling you, we already made the test. Look at that. 2 seconds. Okay. This is ridiculous. But France 2 doesn't care, because France 2, they not only had one cameraman, they had a second cameraman from another angle. So 2 guys knew exactly that something would happen to this guy. So the second cameraman here, look at that.
There are 3 people around him, and he's the only person who shot.
Yeah. But look at that. Not only that. What does the bullet should come from the Israeli side, like this. What does the guy do? He jumps in this direction. Didn't make any physics. And look on the right-hand side here, you see the ambulance. What is interesting is to see that the ambulance started even before he got the bullet. I mean, he didn't get it, but look at on the right-hand side here. Okay, now they will drag him on the floor on the right leg, where he received the bullet. Of course, no blood on the floor, no problem. Then they will drag him and put him on the stretcher. The right leg, no blood nowhere. Now they put him on the stretcher here, on the right leg, no complaint. Okay. So just that you understand, this scene is impossible. It cannot happen that everything's fine. You know, no blood. The cinetics are problematic. The cameramen are not here at the right time. I mean, everything is absurd. Now let me show you who is the cameraman. Talal Abu Rahma. Listen to this guy. He's the guy who filmed it. He's the source.
There were many bullets, right?
So hundreds of bullets, then 40 on the wall. Now listen to him now. Oh, so this scene is interesting. I mean, as I told you, I shortened it. But what's interesting, you see, here you have the stone and the barrel. What you should know is that here at the barrel you have the father and the boy. And 1 meter from the father and the boy, you have a cameraman from Reuters who's filming. And this is what we're seeing here. But listen to what Talal Abu Rahma says.
I never saw shooting in my life.
45 minutes shooting in the boy. But after 45 minutes shooting in the boy, only 8 bullet holes. You see? Not hundreds, not 40. And we're not talking about only the target of the boy and the father. We're talking about the whole wall. And look at the size of these round bullet holes. Can you imagine if the father got 12 holes like that? In French, we would call this gruyère. You know what is gruyère? The cheese, big cheese. Okay. The other thing interesting is that the angle is 30 degrees. If the bullet were coming from the 30 degrees angle, it would scratch the wall and make oval shapes. You understand? The bullets would go that way. But now, you can see that it's only round bullet holes. So it means that it's coming from the Arab side. So why would the Arab shoot at this target, and not exactly at this, but around this target, only because they want to create an impression? Okay, but it doesn't make sense. The Israelis are on this direction. You see? If you look at the angle, round bullet hole. Okay. So let me show you, because I'll tell you later about the trials, but I had a trial, and friends who brought written testimonials to the trial. Let me show you. So the guy from AP said that Israeli soldiers were firing missiles. Then the ambulanceman said that the plane was firing at them from overhead. And then the guy from Abu Dhabi TV said there were helicopters, Israeli snipers firing anti-tank missiles. And you have to understand, when you mention what's happening in Europe, is that with this kind of statement and ridiculous thing, I was found guilty of defamation the first time, with this kind of statement, and they said the witnesses who were there saw that they were shot by planes and everything. So, were they shot at Netzarim Junction? Let's listen to the father.
12 Geschosse sind in meinen Körper geflogen. Mein Unterkörper war voller Schüsse und mein Arm.
So 12 bullets, his lower body and his arm. So you can see his lower body full of bullets and his arm. Okay, it's a stain. It has nothing to do with blood, but you can imagine, of course, that a bullet on the arm would destroy his arm, you see. So now let me show you what happened to the boy after he died, and I think it's really important. Remember, now the boy is dead. Look. So, very interesting. First you hear the machine gun noise, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Okay. Then you see the father smile. Of course he smiles. He got 12 bullets, he doesn't cry. Then his boy is dead. So he looks at the camera and says, did you get it perfectly? And if you look closely, you can see there is even a tripod here. A tripod. Yeah. So the father smiles, raises his elbow. The father, after he dies, raises his foot, of course. And here you see the foot of the tripod. You will see it better. Okay, but you want to see it, watch it again, or that's okay? Okay. So remember, the boy is dead. Look again. Smiles. Machine gun noise. And you see the bullet holes here on the wall. You know, have you seen this bullet hole? Because you have to know that the doctor told us that there was no bullet to be found in their body. Sorry. No bullets were found. So all the bullets went through their bodies. But if the bullet went through the body, you should see blood on the wall somewhere. Yeah, of course. Yes, you had a question? Okay, now you think it's ridiculous when you see the boy raising his elbow. I have something more ridiculous than that. Because you remember, like 2015 years ago, they claimed that the man was killed, then resurrected, then buried, then disappeared. You know the story. You heard about that, no? It happened in Israel. Now let's watch this. It says, now the boy is dead. He already resurrected, and he put it down. Look at that. Here you see the tripod here. Hey, I told you. First he resurrected. Look at that time code. That's what they call the time code here. That's what they gave to the court. 6, 7, 8, 9, 9. And they disappeared. Okay? Not only that, is that what you can see?
Got from the court the whole
Yeah.
movie, not the whole movie.
No, well, no. The story is even different because the court, at a certain point, because they were refusing to give the tapes, so the court ordered the French TV to give the tape to the court. So we got the tape. The court got the tape. Then I asked for a copy, and they rejected. They refused my request. So we had to use other ways to get the tape, but we got it. But that's what's interesting is that from this, because of course, if I show you the tape without stopping it, you wouldn't see that the boy and the father disappeared. But when you look at it, look at that, and not a single drop of blood. Remember, they were transperced by 15 bullets. No blood nowhere, and they disappear. Now listen to the father. So the first bullet hit him in the right knee. Remember, very important. Oh, this is the day after he got 12 bullets. Pretty cool, no? Sad, but cool. Okay, now interesting. You remember I told you about the red handkerchief? Is it? You will put it to his stomach. Take advantage of this, it's just because you will see that the legs of the father are perfect, and the right knee has no problem. Now, I will show you the autopsy, because when we asked for some more information, they showed us the autopsy of the kid. Remember, the first bullet hit him on the right knee. And now listen to the doctor.
Following the examination, it was clear that the bullets entered the body from the front and from above. The bullets entered the body in the abdomen and exited the body here. This wound was fatal. The second injury lies just beneath the chest, and the bullet exited through the left hip bone. This wound was also fatal because it shredded major blood vessels. The third injury in the left leg was relatively harmless.
The third injury in the left leg. First he had two bullets, one here, came out, so you can imagine the blood, That's true that you can have a bullet in which doesn't put blood, but when it goes inside, takes flesh and whatever and bones and goes out with lots of blood. But now no blood, but third left leg. And when you take a look, remember when the boy looked at the camera and put it down, look at his back. The two bullets which came out, no blood to be seen here. Oh, I can give you, as I told you, we have many, many more pieces of evidence. We also have, you remember, because the story started at 3 p.m., 45 minutes of shooting, then evacuation, whatever. We also have, for example, the doctor who got the dead body at the morgue, The dead body at the morgue, the guy was interviewed and filmed. And the guy was asked, when did you get the dead body? And he said, at 10 a.m. So he got the dead body at 10 a.m. in the morning, then the boy was alive at 3 p.m., then dead at 3:45, then alive at 3:46, then dead at 3:47, then disappear at 3:48. You see, all this makes it ridiculous. So if you summarize, you have the same day at the same spot, cameraman filming fake scenes. The first scene is not authentic. Remember the ambulance which comes and takes the guy on the right leg. The sources of France too are not really serious. The helicopters and everything. 45 minutes of shooting, 15 high velocity bullets, but no blood nowhere. And the dead boy moves after he has died. That's very interesting. And we have 50 more pieces of evidence. Lots of their testimonials are ridiculous, crazy. Doesn't make sense. Now let's take a look again, and now that you know the real story, let's take a look at the 50-second clip, now that you understand why it's a hoax. You see, 3 p.m. So the cameraman at the right time, right spot, he fails. The ambulance comes in 2 seconds, and I will show you someone smoking now. They put someone smoking his cigarette quietly in the middle of this scene of war. Look at this guy, he's smoking here. And now the guy moved from another place. That's interesting. That Cameron is always at the right time, right spot. He was there, now he moves here. You see the bullet holes here. Now he cuts because you don't have to see what's happening. He cuts when the dust the tripod. Now the boy is facing us with a red handkerchief. Now he hides it before the boy puts his hand here. You see? So, I'm close to the end. So, it's a stage fraud. Okay? I'd like, before Continuing, I would like to ask you if there is anyone here who doesn't believe it's a fraud.
What if someone
You don't believe it's a fraud? No, it's my question. After we'll go further, but I have a question first for everybody. I'm sorry.
But what if someone would say that he doesn't believe it's fraud? Here in the audience.
Be the one.
Okay, for the
Okay, give me one reason why you don't believe it's a hoax.
let's say that the candidate was the camera, I don't know, how do you say Chatzuva? Doesn't mean that there was someone filming. Maybe it was there before.
Of course, yeah. And what about the dead boy who raised his elbow? What about the 15 bullets and no blood?
Maybe the last minutes, last seconds of his...
So you'd better find a doctor who would testify this, because we had doctors who testified in our favor. They never found one. Yes, they found one doctor who testified in their favor. His name is Rafi Walden. You know Rafi Walden? Okay, this kind of crazy far leftist who's been all... Son of love, Shimon Peres. Just, I must admit something. Most of the people around Shimon Peres were against us during all this battle. I must agree with that. But they never found any ballistic scientific expert who testified with something. The guy just said, I believe Charles London because he's a decent man. But he never came with and said, look, I as a doctor, with 15 bullets, of course there is no blood. I'm asking you, it's very important. But if you have answers for this, that's interesting. You have answers? Okay, so you missed the whole presentation. May I start again?
No, did he die? Doing lectures about his death. In picture.
Why can you tell me he died? I just don't understand. You see the picture at the morgue, you see that he's a different boy. You see that he's a different... Look, at the morgue, the guy is telling you that the boy got 2 bullets inside and went out on his back. You see his back is perfect. They claimed also that at the morgue that he got the bullet on the left leg, and the father told us that he got the bullet on the right leg. That's interesting. I forgot to mention something. You remember at the beginning I told about biometricians. Biometricians are people who compare the faces. They took the face of Mohamed Adoura on the France 2 film, and they compared with the guy at the morgue. And they saw it's a completely different picture. You understand? We're not talking... So they are actors. What you're seeing is actors. So now when you're asking me, so where is the boy? That's your question? Yeah. I can tell you something. With 2 people here, I came with a taxi driver. I can testify that when he dropped us, he was alive. I hope he's still alive, but I cannot certify anything. You understand what I mean? I can prove that at the end of the film, the boy is alive. I can't prove anything else now. He's been living in a dangerous place. I mean, with barbarians around him. I mean, they could have killed him the day after. They could have killed him whenever they want. You know, they could have protected him, changed his identity. We don't care. What we care about the film, what has been used to defame the good name of Israel, is a fraud, is a fake. It's clear?
Probably have a new movie.
Hmm?
We probably participate in a new movie. Right
Maybe.
now.
Okay, so now, what I said about Peres, that during all these years of lobbying, until this official Israeli report, all the people around Shimon Peres were against me and against all the people who wanted to reveal the truth. Well, any time someone's related to Shimon Peres was involved in this case, either in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or whatever, they were... No, he's talking about all the whole people around. You know what? I will show you. Have you heard about Igal Palmor, for example? You know the guy Igal Palmor? Okay. Keep this question. I will show you his statements. When I won my trial against France 2, I will show you what Igal Palmor said. Just that you understand what it comes when these people are not related to the good, I would say. It's not right or left, because I can tell you that I have very, very strong adversaries on the right and very good supporters on the left, and the opposite is true. I can give you one name, for example. Have you heard about Elie Barnavi? Elie Barnavi is an Israeli historian who was an ambassador in France. The guy is for J Street. The guy is for the peace, the Geneva Peace Initiative. He was the guy who was saying that you have to twist the arm of Israel. But the guy testified in my favor. Okay, so you see, the guy is coming from the far left. So it has nothing to do with right or left. It's a question of personal interest. For some people who have personal interest, like some of the people around Shimon Peres, they were not interested in revealing the truth. Ask them. Sorry?
You said they were against you, but in law you sued as what? What is your connection to that case? You just volunteered to...
No, well, you have to understand. My first battle was not in France, was in Israel. Because in Israel I had opponents who didn't want to fight for the truth. I mean, I can tell you, we had 2 Israeli ambassadors in France. One named...
You volunteered for it? This was something that was important?
Volunteer of what?
To take care of the case.
Yeah, of course. So you have 2 Israeli ambassadors. One was Dani Sheikh, and the other one was Nissim Zvili. Both of these guys were Israeli ambassadors to Paris. When I was trying to convince French journalists that I was right, the guys were going after me, talking to the journalists, don't listen to this guy, he's a nutcase. Don't listen to him. We have no problem with Charles Enderlin. He's a fantastic journalist, we love him so much. Okay? And this is what I've been facing for many years. Many years. I had so many opponents inside the Israeli establishment. And I still have. I can tell you, the Israeli ambassador to Bern in Swiss, because last time I saw him, it was in Geneva. The guy in Bern, his name is Igal Caspi. The guy is a friend of Charles Enderlin, so he's still supportive of the fraud, and he's still the ambassador of Israeli ambassador. And he was summoned recently when he criticized Bibi Netanyahu when Bibi wanted to go to
In his Twitter.
Yeah. When Bibi went to Washington to speak, he tried to discredit Netanyahu. You see, so all these guys have their personal agendas. So for all these years, I've been fighting, and I can tell you that you've been helpful to me because I've been showing them that I was able to speak at your group, gave me more credibility for the Israeli government. I was there, when I was fighting for this, I was there maybe 10 or 20 times a year at the Israeli Prime Minister's office to fight, to explain them why it was so important. And at the end, after more than 10 years of lobbying, we got their official report. It was very important. Why? Because at the first trial, when I lost in 2006, the French verdict was said clearly: Carte is not right because he doesn't have the support of the State of Israel. Okay, so for me that was very important to get it, to avoid this kind of critics. And then they came to the same conclusions as ours. So that was very important because for all these years we had lots of troubles with this. For example, the German documentary, the first one, which attracted my attention in 2002, I tried to have it broadcast in the Israeli TV stations. None of them wanted to broadcast it. Charles Enderlin was so powerful, and he's still very powerful, has so many friends there that it was prevented from being screened. Then on the second one, which was aired in 2009, then I used all what I could, and then the first channel broadcast it. So it was a big achievement. So this is the Ministry of International Affairs and Strategy. The guy it's Steinitz who made it public, but there was a change of government. The guy who was really involved was Boogie Ya'alon just before that. So, at the conclusion, winning the media battle, we need to buy the media battle because we need to win Aldera to win the media battle. Why? Because it is the first big event in terms of media against the State of Israel, and this is why we really need to make it fall to its. It would be a big milestone, and it will be also important because Charles Enderlin, the guy who's responsible for this, the guy is still very well respected. He will retire in 4 months, and the guy has just got the Legion of Honor a few years ago. I mean, he has never been questioned, worried by anything he did, and the guy is responsible for so many dead people here in Israel. And remember, Aldera is everywhere, on monuments, stamps, streets, history books. One of the achievements we had, for example, was last year, the first history book which clarified and made it clear that it was a hoax was a Canadian textbook. So it was very important for the first time to have a history book telling people that it was a hoax. It's not French, of course, as I told you. It's everywhere in the world. It's everywhere. Go in any Muslim country, they have streets, monuments. Ask any Muslim, Muhammad Ad-Dura, all of them know it. It's the trigger of the global jihad in 2000, and this is why it's not only about Jews and Israel, it's also about the Western world. I mean, they're using it everywhere. It's also about Islam and deception, and what we're facing now in Europe with all the ways, the Muslims are trying to put pressure on our Western societies. That's very important. I don't know if you've seen, but there was a terrorist plot which was blocked 2 weeks ago. The guy wanted to bomb and to kill Christians in a church near Paris. So that's very important. It's not only about Jews. As they said, after Saturday will come Sunday. And it's about the Westerners' naivety. If there were not the French public TV to give the kosher stamp to this news report, there would be no Al-Dura hoax. If it had been done by Al Arabiya or any other Arabic TV, it would not be the news. And fighting like the media, it's all the lies in all the media. You have to understand it's not only about Israel also. When it comes to any kind of topic, they can lie. And it's very important to make them accountable for their lies. So our objectives are clear. We need to spread the message of truth to the whole world. We need to raise the awareness of the public opinions about the lies in the media in general. And I think it's really important for our democracies. Because here in Israel, I'm sure that the media are lying to you from time to time on other issues. And that's really important because you cannot have a decent democracy if you don't have decent media. So I need your suggestions, ideas, and introductions. Maybe you know the guy who will help me to, I would say, let's have a good target. Close the France 2 office in Israel unless they admit the fraud. I think this is a really decent objective, This TV channel created so much turmoil in Israel and killed so many people because of this. Unless they admit the fraud, you close their office and you prevent them from working in Israel. It would be a very strong slap in the face of the French government. I need to spread the truth, so please, around you, please spread the message. You be able to receive my message. Okay, so this is for the Americans, because at a certain point I need some legal fund. And thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a question about
Charles Underlin, yeah.
Yeah, but you have to understand. This guy, I know everything about him too. He made last week or 2 weeks ago, again in France, he made a report,
A documentary
about the Temple Mount issue in Jerusalem. And I am an activist on that subject. I'm defending the Jewish rights on the Temple Mount, and I'm for the law in there and the democracy, and I can speak to you.
No problem.
And I'm really pissed off. That's the least we can say, because I heard your presentation 2 years ago when we met you at the university. I think it was 1.5 years ago, and it already pissed me off. But now it touched not only that subject, but also another subject that I'm involved in. And
Okay.
I'm asking.
Okay, I'm telling you something. I love you. I love you because I'm telling you something. You're giving the conclusion of what I need to say. You know what? When I came to people and said, "Oh yes," and say, "Oh, we don't care. We Israeli have no other things to think." But you have to understand that after he's doing with this, he's going after you for the Temple Mount. And you care about what? You care about, I don't care, anything in Israel, he will come after you and he will ruin your life for this. And this guy is a disaster. His wife is a disaster. His whole family is a disaster. I'm telling you, she just published a book about Israel. I could send you the link. That's terrible, that what you're talking about in Israel, about Israel and when they're coming to Europe. But the guy is in Israel. It's not making, you know what? I'm telling you something. Making him a persona non grata wouldn't please me. I would like him to be in jail. The guy is a murderer. This guy has to pay a price for this. Expelling him would make him a victim. You understand what I mean? This guy has to be put in jail for what he did. This guy is a dangerous man, but he still have people defending him. I can tell you, Charles and I don't have the name of this. There is a woman. There is a woman at the Knesset, at the new Knesset, who was elected, and she published recently an article mentioning Adura as if it was a real story. So I wrote to one of her colleagues and said, "Come on, wake her up." I mean, this woman, and she was invited to come today. She's not here, otherwise she would have raised her hands. You understand what I mean? But these people don't know. You don't know what you're dealing. This guy is dangerous. He's destroying your country, and he's making your life more dangerous. With these guys out of the country, not out of the game. With these guys, it would help you to have a better life. And this guy also, you need to understand, this guy will retire in 5 months. But in 5 months, he will not leave the picture. He will work for any NGO with his prestige as a former French correspondent, and he will defame and defame and defame. Full time. Yes?
Do you think that the Israeli government learned something from this case, meaning that if something similar to what happened will happen again, the government will have the tools to deal with that?
Okay, that's a very important question. I tried. I can tell you something. A few years ago, I came to the Prime Minister's office. My interlocutor was never Bibi Netanyahu. It was always his guy second. I have a problem with these guys because they had no clue about what's going on in this kind of field, except, I would say, Danny Seaman and Yossi Cooper-Vassar. These guys were really interested. But the other guys are not interested. They're more about their career and everything. And they've not learned, really. And I told them, I offered them, look, I'm coming for 1 year in Israel just to teach your administration how to deal with media, how to deal and to fight them. They were not interested. You know what, I mentioned something when I told you about Igal Palmor. Let me show you, sorry. Okay, sorry. When I won my trial in 2008, Igal Palmor was officially interviewed by a media about what I said, about the fact that I won the trial. Let's listen to what Igal Palmor published and repeated weeks and weeks later. Krsenti is a private individual, and no one in the Israeli government asked him to take on his battle against France too. Okay. He was summoned to court because of complaint of the French television channel. I don't see where there is room for the Israeli government to get involved. You understand?
What's his job?
He was a spokesperson at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Dover. The government does not have an official stand on as what exactly happened on September 30th, and they see the issue as an internal French affair, not Israeli. Krsenti's work is counterproductive. So to your question...
He was fired. Okay.
Huh?
He was fired just last year.
He was fired last year.
Not really. I mean, he stayed until, as you said, now he's working for the Jewish agency. So I would say the guy, now he worked for the Aliyah. But the guy made a lot for Aliyah because he made the life for the Jews outside so unbearable. So now they're giving him money for this.
Is the real place to fight all this in court rather in
No.
trial?
No. The court was just a tool. The tool we used to raise awareness, to get the material, and because at the time when I was saying it's a hoax, nobody wanted to take on this fight, as he said. The Israeli government was not interested. The Jewish organizations were not interested. Everybody was discrediting anyone involved in that, and we were considered as not case. It's like saying that Elvis Presley is living with Marilyn Monroe in an island in the Bahamas island. You understand what I mean? It's just like, it doesn't make sense. Because of the courts, we were able to have a debate and force them to say, okay, what do you have in your hands? What do you have in your pockets? Because at the beginning, that's very interesting, they said, well, you know what, we won't show you the raw footage, because the raw footage, we have 27 minutes of the agony of the kids. We have even when the bullet entered the body. And of course, at the court, they were forced to see that there was nothing to be seen.
What was the ground in 2012 for the Cour de Cassation cancelled?
Ah, interesting. So, for the trials, let me summarize the trials. I was summoned to court and I was accused of being defamatory. Why? Because as nobody wanted to go into this fight, I took some lawyers, said, what can I do? I want to have a debate with them. So they said the only way is to accuse them of being very provocative in order to be sued. So I published, they sued me for defamation, and we had a debate. At the court, I presented part of this evidence, they presented nothing, and I was found guilty of defamation and saying the Israeli never supported Krsenti, whatever. So we appealed, and we said, but we want to see these minutes, because they always claimed that they had 27 minutes of raw footage substantiating their claims. So we went to the court and we asked for them. The judge interrupted the trial and said, okay, now France 2, we order you to bring the tapes to the court. 2 months later, they came with a DVD of 18 minutes. So they tampered with the evidence. They deleted 9 minutes and they brought only 18 minutes. We saw the tape at the court, and we saw that there was nothing to be seen, just the boy raising his elbow, everything ridiculous. No agony, no bullet penetrating the body. And then I was found not guilty of defamation. In 2012, then they immediately, instead of admitting the fraud, they went to the French Supreme Court and they asked for a cancellation. And the verdict was cancelled on which grounds? They said that we didn't have the right to look at the raw footage of the court. You see? So at the first trial, I lost because we couldn't see the raw footage. Then we saw the tapes. I won. But then after they said, no, you don't have the right to look at the tapes. You see? So it was because we didn't have the right to look at the tapes.
So in the next trial, you will not have the tapes.
No, but at the following trial, I used only the tapes I had before. And with that, I was able to prove it was a hoax. But then they said, and they claim, and I was found guilty in 2013, and they said that I was found guilty because the tapes that I had shown at the court, I didn't have them in 2004. Meaning that in 2004, when I said it was a hoax, I had the intuition that it was a hoax, but I didn't have any piece of evidence. For the French legal system, it matters, but it doesn't make sense anyhow. I'm not the guy who'd say, okay, this is a hoax, and I will discover the pieces of evidence 10 years later. Of course, it's absurd. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, you said about the footage you got from the other channels, Reuters, and
Yeah.
where were they? They were the cameramen worked for them.
Yeah.
And did they know about the direction of all of the scene?
Look, you have to understand, Hollywood is an industry. You will hear about the industry of lies from Ben-Dror, Yemeni. It's an industry. All of these guys, they don't work for the media or whatever. They work for the so-called Palestinian cause. Talal Abu Rahma, 6 months after he filmed this in 2000, in April 2001, he was interviewed in a Moroccan newspaper, and he said that he chose journalism to defend the Palestinian cause. So these guys, they don't care about the truth. For them, it's a weapon, you know.
Okay, I understand about the cameramen, but where were they? Directors, the journalists, the channel?
They don't care. And the Western media, that's another story. They are completely dedicated to demonizing the state of Israel. I would say destroying the state of Israel. They have a very strong policy, which is decided at the, I would say, at least European Union, which is to discredit the state of Israel. We're getting closer to really bad times when you look at the picture from European community and Israel. They're going to put stamps now on the products coming from Judea and Samaria. It's just like 75 years ago they were putting Star of David in front of the store of the shops. It's like it's crazy. When you think about it, that's crazy.
Last question.
Okay, we have. Okay, which are the last questions? One.
Only one.
You cannot frustrate. Yeah, 1, 2. Okay.
To what extent do you think it's built into European culture? Like you're saying, this is a general European thing. To what extent do you think it's a battle that can actually be won? If you say it's so built into the EU, to institutions, to what extent do you think we just can fight one case, 2 cases, but it never really make the problem go away? Is it a war?
You mean about that? I mean, look, it's a problem. No, but the problem is not about. This is part of their fight. They are engaged in a big fight against the state of Israel. You know, they can't stand it, for sure. So, well, you know what? I must be very provocative, but the good news is that now they're after the Christians. Since now they're after the Christians, they may wake up a little bit. You understand? When they were going only after the Christians in the Middle East, they don't care. You know, they pretend something like, well, we care about the Middle East from the Middle East, but we don't care. But the important thing, I would tell you something, you know, as a European, because I'm a European, I'm a French citizen. It's like, every time you hear people telling you never again, we'll always defend Israel. Look at what happened to the Yazidis or whatever, you know. Don't trust them at all. There is not a single European soldier who will leave his blood for the state of Israel. You're only depending on yourself, that's it. Yes, for the last one?
What is the suggestion for what should we do now? This, although it's a good case, but what are you suggesting?
My suggestion now?
How can we not win the battle, but what should we do?
First, you need to fight it. The first thing, you may say I'm preaching for myself.
Run after
I tell you something. You know what? As I mentioned, the Munich massacre state of mind, you remember? After the Munich massacre of the Olympic Games, all of them were killed. I must tell you something. All the people who have been involved in this must lose their job, must lose their credibility. And people like this will understand that in the future, if they want to defame Israel, they will not be able to live with this. I'm telling you something. Once you have Charles Underlin discredited, summoned to court, having forced to go to court, friends to close their office unless they admit the fraud, all this kind of thing here, the other European media and American media won't understand. You have to make them understand there is a price to pay. I mean, I'm telling you something, what's going on in France, if you're doing, you know what happened it was last January, Fox News broadcast something, and they said that there were no-go zones in France, you know, and no-go zones in Paris. Okay, Fox News said that, and I know the guy who did this on Fox News, and then they complained, and the Paris mayor, you know what did they do? The Paris mayor sued Fox News now, so there will be a trial between the mayor of Paris and Fox News, and now Fox News is they're afraid of mayor of Paris. You have to make them understand there is a price to pay for, and the battle is not over unless this guy, this Charles Underlin will ruin your nights because of what he did a month ago, and he will keep on ruining your life each and every day. This guy has to be, and I'm telling you something. Any time I'm coming here to Israel is to raise awareness more and more and more people for this. Thank you very, very much.